those. All right, so today, just give you a quick agenda. We're gonna review some basic concepts and terminology of what BI is. Next, we're gonna look at the importance of it throughout each level of your organization. Then we're gonna review a few lessons learned from my experience with data solutions. And then we're gonna talk about the challenges they present to an organization. And then with data and BI solutions, there's always multiple ways to achieve a single outcome. Well, we're going to discuss a non-complex, cost-effective approach that small and medium-sized businesses can use. And these techniques also work for larger companies, departments within larger companies as well. And finally, we're going to review some components or the components that are needed for a BI solution and discuss kind of a newer concept in the field called self-service BI. Now, as we go through this presentation, I want to point out that I will repeatedly refer to BI that is not always some elaborate reporting system. It can be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet that has one sheet for data and one sheet for a chart. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Now, what is business intelligence? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to take that chart from the previous slide. This is a simple dashboard that gives you a visual breakdown of each minute that I'm going to spend, or the minutes I'm going to spend per agenda topic. Now, what decisions can you make from this data? Well, maybe you can see that the approach, my topic approach is more important. It's the bigger slice. Maybe you say, well, Sean likes his approach most of all. Or maybe you say, hey, importance is just as long as approach. Maybe I can sneak out of the meeting. Whatever your decision is, this is BI. This is business intelligence. It's the process and strategies of collecting, analyzing, and presenting that data so that you can make a fact-based, informed decision. It's a very powerful concept. It's been around in business since the mid-1800s. The very first use of the concept was presented in a business journal by a merchant named Richard Devens. What Mr. Devens found was presenting and communicating data to workers makes the entire business smarter. So let's take a quick look at some BI concepts. Now, these concepts and terminology can be both confusing and overwhelming, deterring folks from really taking advantage of this concept, of the overall business intelligence concept. Some of the buzzwords and keywords can really lead you down a wrong path, though, when researching what tools to use. Here I have 3 groups of BI concepts organized from the least complex to advanced. Now, this first column holds many concepts that organizations can use today without any additional purchases of products. The BI term itself, as I mentioned earlier, is often misrepresented. As from our example, BI is simply organizing data so you can make an informed decision. You do not need all this fancy BI tools to accomplish this. For example, Microsoft Excel is still the most common BI tool for creating reports and dashboards. Reports and dashboards are similar. They present data, but their formats are usually a little different. A report contains rows and columns for the most part, while a dashboard is many small visualizations, like my chart earlier, my pie chart. They let you quickly review data. Now, both reports and dashboards help organizations to become data-driven. Data-driven, all data-driven means is your organization becomes fact-based. You are using your data to say, I grew 20% last year, instead of saying my company grew. Data analytics, utilization, mining, visualization, gathering, benchmarking, all of these big fancy buzzwords are really all talking about the science of working with data. analytics, and utilization are usually more analytical by nature, where data mining and gathering are simply the process of discovering and organizing data. Data visualization is simply how we graphically present and communicate data to users. Now, the last column is usually found within large and advanced BI solutions. The data warehouse concept is often associated with big data. It organizes data into cubes. Cubes are basically specialized data sets that have many dimensions. For example, Netflix will use this to say, when does usage of my product increase on Fridays when it's raining and we're in the middle of a pandemic? So each of those ands is a dimension. Excuse me. So advanced concepts like these use advanced technology, but that doesn't mean small businesses and medium-sized businesses can't implement these same concepts, but on a simpler scale. So now let's take a look at the importance of business intelligence. Now, no matter the size of your company, BI can provide your workers access to a wealth of information. They can use this data to work smarter, more efficient. There have been numerous studies that look at how people work in today's environment. A common theme found people spend just way too much time looking for information. Whether it's data or documents, the problem begins with disparate systems and data silos. The lack of data utilization causes folks to go hunting for information. So they need to hunting for that information. They need to be successful. For example, a few years ago, I worked with a really small oil and gas firm here. And I was hired to look at worker efficiency, especially around data. Oil and gas companies generate a lot of data. So what I found really just aligned with these quotes on the slide. In one scenario, it took two people an inordinate amount of time to put together a simple report. Now, the data from these reports came from 3 different systems. It was manually exported, further manually scrubbed. Now, the beautiful thing, well, and the people did this, it took them an entire week and they would do it every month. So the beautiful thing about the end result was it didn't require expensive BI tools and really not that much time. We looked at the tools that the company had, which was basically Excel and SQL Server, and we crafted a solution for them. It was definitely business intelligence done the easy way and the cost-effective way. So streamlining with BI is great, but to be successful at it and implementing it through your organization, you really have to understand how it affects your employees at different levels of your business. Knowledge workers use information and data to simply complete their work. The faster they receive this data, the quicker they can get their tasks done. These tasks are generally more operationally focused, right? This is where BI and business process sort of facilitate each other. I call it data communication. The business process usually feeds the data, and the data usually feeds the business process. Common sayings with knowledge workers are, hey, I need to know when something is approved so I can process it. Or, hey, how many of these do I have to complete? Or, well, I'm starting my day, how busy am I going to be? Planning ahead. The data presented to these workers are usually in the form of task lists and reports. Now, moving up a level, managers, department leads tend to use BI to track performance and utilization. They often consume this data first as a dashboard, as you're seeing here, but then they'll move to a more detailed report for further analysis. So it's called that drill throughing. BI helps answer questions like, how productive are my employees? Is my team meeting KPIs, key performance indicators? Proper BI implementation at this level greatly affects the efficiency of a business from top to bottom. And then last, BI executive level tends to be more macro, yet laser focused. Dynamic dashboards are used where graphs and charts drill through specific data sets. BI concepts, the science concepts that I discussed earlier, become even more increasingly important at this level because the data becomes a little bit more complex and the requirements of the data are complex. Data visualization tools are often needed at this level to present the data in an effective manner so the executives and owners can make informed decisions. Now, I'm going to return to that scenario that I talked about with the small oil and gas company and use it as an example of return on investment. So the challenge or BI offers a tremendous amount of ROI, especially coupled with business process automation tools. But ROI with BI projects can be challenging to quantify. The direct benefits are usually apparent. The indirect benefits build over time. So the two employees at the small company I mentioned would manually export data in the systems and then manually scrub it and just really spend a lot of time with that data. The immediate ROI that was recovered was time, and that time is money. So if you take 15% from the accountant, 10% from the business dev, it really saved the company 40 man hours a month. With the time recovered, these employees have time to focus more on their day jobs. Their work is completed faster, reducing the need for additional staff. So that would be one indirect benefit. The employees, especially the accountant, begin to see other opportunities to automate other data-related tasks. So they see BI in motion, and it makes them smarter how they work with their information. Lastly, the employees were happy just to be removed of the manual process, and were very kind of appreciative of the solution. So ROI within well-implemented projects are typically immediate, as the case above, but in some cases it's not so immediate, but the ROI snowballs over time, especially coupled with a streamlining of business process. 5% savings here, so 5% there. It quickly adds up. Workers begin to do more because the data is communicated to them instead of them going searching for it. This all sounds great, and it is, but this only works if the project is implemented correctly. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some challenges with BI.
Sean, just real quick back on that last slide. What are some of the departments you see this being done in? I know you have accountant right here, but what are some of the others?
So a lot of what we've seen is finance, because this finance is really shows that growth in business is capitalism, right? So we want to know how much we're spending, how much we're making. But from a efficiency standpoint, from a business efficiency standpoint, it's mainly just an operational type department. How fast did we get this done? Can we do it better? And you start looking at that data and seeing opportunities. Hey, it's taking us 3 weeks to do this. The data says it takes us 3 weeks. Let's look at it and maybe shorten it to 2 weeks. And it's really those two, not really accounting for that one department, but really any operational department other than that. Okay, so moving on, talking about the challenges. So not so long ago, BI was really just an exclusive club. It served the large enterprise. It was expensive to maintain, expensive to implement, but now it's very accessible. However, that stigma still remains that implementing some sort of data solution is just too expensive. That's not the case. The concepts are complicated, And most of the information on the internet today is generally geared for the larger solutions, but just because something is complicated doesn't mean it needs to be complicated. The absolute biggest challenge with any BI implementation that I've done is the stakeholder approaching this as a BI project. So approaching it as a large project. There are a lot of facets when it comes to data solutions, and BI means a lot of different things to different people. So throwing terms and concepts around that really don't fit your business presents that challenge. So I've seen solution companies and freelancers approach BI projects as they would any large project without really looking at ways to cut costs with using tools that already exist. These concepts, those freelancers and solution companies use these concepts and technologies that's meant for big data, but not for small data. So education on BI concepts while keeping your needs in mind is really the biggest step to mitigate this challenge. Now, this slide here shows the typical architecture of a large BI solution. Other challenges of BI projects, especially this size, is cost. It's expensive to maintain. You usually have multiple servers, multiple SQL servers, database servers. You need manpower, developers, IT guys. But getting a solution, a BI solution that isn't perfect for your needs, really just leads to wasted time and money. Again, mitigation through this is education and finding a trusted advisor who can help navigate the BI universe. So another big challenge is that companies tend to make a leap without really thinking through the process. Yeah, BI tools and collecting data is great, but buying the tools without really understanding is again again money wasted. So another challenge is finding the time and employee resources for gathering the requirements that you need. BI projects or data solutions usually take a bottom-up approach because they first affect the worker. Workers are most affected because they are familiar with the data. They hold the information. They hold the requirements about the data. If those workers aren't ready, the project will be difficult. Bottom-up approaches work great, but sometimes employees may feel threatened that the technology is going to automate their work, right? So communication and proper planning mitigates these challenges. Now, in comparison, a top-down approach has similar challenges with around managers and executives' time dedicated to the project. Their time is expensive. Their time is usually limited. So without having a good plan going forward, we face these time-based challenges. Now, the final challenge that I'll mention today is one I've seen with small companies who are growing rapidly and mid-sized companies who do not embrace technology. So the challenge is not data. The challenge is not information. The challenge is business process. Manual business processes follow a business as it grows. The larger it grows, the more pain the process generates. Also, lack of technology investment creates an environment where bodies are just thrown at the problem. So yes, the company now has a data problem. It's big, it's getting large, it's generating a lot of data. But without first streamlining those manual processes, the data problem can't be solved. It's going to be too expensive with staff costs. Everyone's too busy. All of the above challenges take place. A good business process automation tool usually fixes that problem, but it also facilitates as a data collector for when we do start reporting and using business intelligence within the organization. So now we're going to talk about the approach, and this is the approach that I usually take with these sort of data solutions BI projects. And the secret to any well-implemented project, not alone a BI project, in my opinion, is to start small and to start slow. It really is a crawl, walk, run approach. And why is it slow and why should it be slow? Well, you want to make sure, you, the client, wants to make sure you understand all aspects of the business data problem. Determine what data is going to provide the best insight. What data is going to provide the answers that you seek. Have an internal system, internal review of systems and processes and data and budget before making any kind of BI leap. Next, you want to set expectations with employees who are going to participate in the project. Ensure they understand the objective. Also, you want to minimize disruption of your business through this when the project starts. So the people involved need to have a clear vision and expectations set on how it's going to impact them during the project and after the implementation. So as a stakeholder, your approach to the project should be one of preparedness. Know exactly what you want, what your business needs, and how much are you willing to spend. Pick the one process that causes the most pain and would generate the most ROI. Once your ideas and requirements are firm, then bring in a trusted advisor, trusted solution provider to discuss the project. Communicate your vision, but keep the focus on the initial requirement. This allows your project team, the implementation team, to also think and start small. We want to have the future items communicated, of course, but the focus should be on the initial requirement. It is easier to and cost effective to start small and then scale up as needed. I consider this step here, these steps, the crawl phase of the approach. Okay, so the crawl phase is slower. Now we've come into the walk phase. We have the requirements, and this is where the project begins picking up pace. So I usually run data projects in a very iterative manner. I like to review, then ask questions, and then review some more, and ask questions, and then review some more, because I want to ensure total comprehension. I like to deal with facts. BI is all about returning factual data, so really there is no room for ambiguity. The requirements gathering and review portions of the approach are the hardest and most time-consuming of the steps within the entire approach. But that's why I put so much focus on those previous internal reviews. The more my client knows about their data and their processes, the quicker it is for my team to comprehend, design, and deliver. I found that it's a good idea to have review sessions of my clients' systems, processes, and data. Now, I could go directly and just go directly to the data and start writing reports, kind of the do as I'm told method. But if I understand the data, how it's generated, how it's used, what it means, etc., then I could ensure an accurate, factual report is delivered. Implementation team needs to know which data sources are currently in scope and which are coming into scope later. Are they on-premise or are they cloud-based? These sort of requirements. The requirements of the reports and dashboards, the actual end product, there's a little bit of reverse engineering around that, and that tells me the type of structure I need. And that's the fun part, is figuring out the data pieces, data mining them, organizing them in a way, organize them in a way that we can present to the user or use a reporting or BI tool. Now, where this new data structure is housed and how we collect it differentiates easy BI from traditional advanced BI. I'll get into that in a few more slides, but the final step in the process is the easiest part. we build what's designed, we test with you for accuracy. And in some cases, I'm only asked to just return the data structure and not the reports. The client can use the newly formed data structure to create their own reports using BI tools like Power BI. That concept is called self-service BI. So now we come to the run phase of the approach. For any new data set, report, or dashboard, we just simply repeat what we've done previously. The big difference, though, is familiarity. You and I are familiar. We are familiar with the data and the processes. We have a data store that is reusable and it's added to. So we all have less work to do because we build from the previous iteration. Each iteration becomes faster, and we eventually have all the data needed in one place. BI projects are typically not a one and done. We complete the first report, then we come back and we do a dashboard, then we come back and do a different data set, et cetera, et cetera. The process fosters a great partnership type relationship. It's why it's imperative to find a provider that you trust and one that's to be cost effective. So now let's talk about the components of a BI solution. Now, this is similar, same graphic from previous slide, but this architecture represents a BI solution for big data environment. These systems are very powerful on what it can do with data, yet it's expensive. These types of systems require one or more full-time employees to manage it. Most small and medium-sized businesses don't have the budget to implement this type of solution. However, a smaller system with similar components can be designed and developed by a part-time solutions consultant and then managed by your IT provider. Advanced BI really depends on your current database system. In my opinion, Microsoft has the best products for small, medium-sized business companies to implement these types of data solutions. Microsoft SQL Server Standard Edition and higher contains some great automation that help with a lot of the data mining and gathering phases of the project. Now, this diagram here is the final solution from my scenario about that small oil and gas company. The company's accounting system used SQL Server Express, which is a database system to house its data. That database system is free to use. We pulled data from multiple tables within that accounting database, vendors, customers, invoices, line items, et cetera, et cetera. And we pulled that data from multiple tables, related it into one data set, and then stored that data set in a separate SQL Express database on that same server. We call that database the hub, not to be confused with a warehouse, because a hub is more of a smaller, sounds smaller than a warehouse, right? So for the CRM data, there was no way to automatically pull that data down. The employee still had to manually export it, put the raw data in a spreadsheet, but then we just had them drop that data in a folder. And then we ran a little process to pick up the spreadsheet and then import it into the database, into our hub database. Finally, we could, with both data sets in one place, we can relate them and give them a final complete data set. Data set there was then used by the employees with Power BI. Some of them used Excel. Now, I did write a dashboard, a really small dashboard for them in Power BI, but it's self-service BI. So Microsoft kind of put me out of a job with Power BI because there was no need for me to write the reports. The users learned the tool, and really all they asked was, hey, can you serve up the data? So the total cost of software in this implementation was $0 because we used what they already had. Power BI comes with the Office subscription now. SQL Express is free. The only cost there was labor, right? So I estimated this entire project to be 3 days, 3 days of work. We finished a little early. we had some leftover time for, other data sets and really just training on what they want to do with Power BI and Excel. In my opinion, this is business intelligence the easy way. So let's look at some deeper dive at some of the components in a BI solution. Now, the most important component of it is your data sources, right? And you're going to have data sources, whether that's QuickBooks or SQL Server database or cloud products, on-premise products, etc. But ultimately, you have one source where the data is collected, mined into that one source, and then where our data sets can be published out to consume with BI tools in Excel. Some of these data sources, I don't know, you guys might be laughing, but Excel and Access for really small business is one of the most used. You don't really think of Excel and Access as BI tools, maybe Excel, but not Access. Access is great because it's it's good for that really small business, that manager in that department. It's relational database, has a really good report engine in it. The next step higher is SQL Server. We talked about SQL Express being free. The next addition up is SQL Standard. When you get to Standard, there are SQL Analysis Server, Integration Server. You get all of those components with that Standard edition that help with these with the BI solution. Enterprise is really I'd say the big dog of SQL. It's for those big data scenarios. And then today's market, everything's moving cloud. Microsoft has the same type of components, but in cloud. So SQL Azure is one. Azure contains just a lot of BI tools to go from cloud to cloud, on-premise to cloud, or cloud to on-premise. And then lastly, there's a couple. MySQL is kind of a SQL Express equivalent. It works the same way. It's free. It's easy to use. I think it's owned by Oracle now. And then speaking of Oracle, well, we all know who Oracle is. Oracle is meant for the really large enterprise. Right? I think it runs every database, every enterprise in Fortune 500. Really, really large advanced product. Okay. Now, once you have your data sets developed in whatever data store, the next step is utilizing BI and reporting tools to create your visualization. That we call that self-service BI, because you are using that, consuming the data and creating your own reports. Now, Microsoft Power BI is my favorite tool. It's affordable because it's free, it comes with Office. There are different levels that you can get. So the next level up, I think, is Pro, and then there's Enterprise. Power BI does have the ability to tap into various sources like Salesforce and CRM, and really a lot of the Microsoft products, of course. Where it lacks is the need to connect to other cloud-based systems, and those are coming. Things like QuickBooks and Salesforce and NetSuite, or not Salesforce, NetSuite, and some of the other cloud-based accounting and ERP systems. Typically what we have to do there is data mine the data out of those systems into either a cloud database or an on-premise database, and then consume them through Power BI. But business professionals usually can pick up Power BI pretty quick. It looks like Office. It works well. It's amazing what it does and what it creates very easily. And the product is starting to get more intelligent. So Microsoft is throwing more AI and predictive analysis into this tool. So another tool that I played with a little bit is Zoho Analytics. And Zoho, if you don't know, is a CRM company, kind of a competitor to Salesforce, but they offer an analytics product, a BI self-service product. And it's nice. It's really nice. And what I like about it is because they say over 500 hooks into other cloud platforms. So you don't necessarily have to just use it for Zoho CRM, but if you do, it works great. It's purely web-based. You can import data and you import your data sets, create your reports, etc. And then finally, Tableau and Sisense, these are the top tier, the market leaders in self-service BI. However, these are not designed for business professionals. These are more designed for BI professionals and data professionals. There's steep learning curves there. They are extremely powerful and what they can do, very comprehensive. But again, it's inexpensive, but it is not for the everyday worker, business professional. Okay, so there's a numerous other BI tools out there on the market. Picking the proper one on your part takes research. My advice would be, read reviews, search YouTube, watch how other people use the product. Power BI is great about it. That's another reason why I like Power BI, because there's just so much information out there that you can just watch somebody else do it and follow along. But try to get, if you don't want to use Power BI, try to get a trial of another product and play around with it. Just remember though, no matter the BI tool, you need a good data set in order to use them. Okay, so everyone, thanks for your time today. Concludes my presentation.